Here are 50 facts about the X-Men and the mutants of Marvel that you may not have known. If you like this video, please consider subscribing, as I do an array of X-Men and comic book related content on this channel all the time. With that out of the way, let's get started with fact number 1. We all love Nightcrawler. He's our idealistic German fuzzy elf and is a consistent and important member of the X-Men, but did you know that Dave Cockrum initially pitched an early version of this character to DC instead? Fortunately for us and our merry band of mutants, that version of the character was rejected by DC for being too weird, but a home was found for him in Giant Size X-Men number 1. Nightcrawler, personally, I don't think you look weird at all. You are a very dapper looking man. Number 2. You might think the X in the team name X-Men comes from mutants possessing an X gene, or maybe it's named after Professor Xavier, but originally in X-Men number 1, Professor Xavier says they're called the X-Men because they possess extra powers in comparison to non-mutant humans. That's it. That's the reason, and I hope it's been retconned at some point since. Number 3. Oscar Wilde is an immensely notable writer with a long-lasting literary reputation. But what does he have to do with the X-Men? Well, in the Marvel 616 universe, he was canonically a mutant. We first learned of this in Brian K. Vaughan's Mystique miniseries, and then it was again mentioned recently by Sinister in an issue of Immortal X-Men, and apparently he was a more feral mutant like Wolverine, hence the last name Wilde. Number 4. For as many relationships and love triangles there are in the X-Men, during Chris Claremont's original run on the book, Betsy Braddock only had one on-panel kiss, and that was Alex Summers, who she kissed right before entering the Siege Perilous, marking the end of the Outback era of X-Men. Number 5. The character design for Ricochet Rita, who appears in the Longshot limited series, is actually based off of the writer and X-Men editor Ann Nocenti. Number 6. X-Men number 4 is the first appearance of the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, but the cover depicts them in a different color scheme than they actually wear inside the issue. Allegedly, this was changed on the cover to contrast the background. Number 7. Released in 1993 as a part of a cross-promotion, X-Men Pizza Hut Special Edition was released as a non-canonical comic book. Number 8. If you thought we were done with X-Men pizza facts, well, you were sorely mistaken. For the release of the X-Men Apocalypse movie, Pizza Hut had another promo for the X-Men featuring a pizza with 4 different sections of toppings, thus making an X on the pizza pie, and therefore it's X-Men related, I guess. Number 9. In the 2006 Black Panther series, Storm and T'Challa got married to each other, creating a union between a goddess and a king, and talk about a power couple. Except, later on the marriage was annulled, so they're not together anymore. Number 10. At over 8 million comics sold, X-Men number 1 from the 90s is the best-selling comic book in history, and it's a great story, but this is most likely due to there being 5 connecting variant covers. Number 11. In a conversation where Stan Lee told Neil Adams he could be on any Marvel comic he wanted to, Neil Adams asked what the worst-selling title was at the time and asked to work on that book, which was The X-Men, and I'm so glad he decided to use his talents to help elevate our uncanny mutants. Number 12. Kitty Pryde has had many a codename throughout her history: Ariel, Shadowcat, the Red Queen, but her very first codename was given to her by Storm, and that was Sprite. Number 13. Originally appearing in the New Mutants, the character Deadpool was conceived as a parody to Deathstroke from DC Comics, hence the similar names and similar designs. Number 14. Wolverine was originally going to be called the Badger instead of Wolverine, but then Marvel decided to change it before publishing the book. Number 15. The X-Men were also going to have a different name. They were going to be called the Merry Mutants, but Stan Lee decided to change it because he thought nobody would know what a mutant was. Number 16. In the 1996 Star Trek and X-Men crossover comic, written by Scott Lobdell, the X-Men face off against the Enterprise crew, and Wolverine is taken out with a Vulcan nerve pinch. Number 17. Charles Xavier's son, David Haller, is called Legion as a reference to a story in the Bible in which Jesus meets a man who is possessed by multiple demons, just as David has multiple personalities. Number 18. There's a mutant called Forget-Me-Not whose ability is essentially to be forgotten. He can only be perceived when he's in a direct line of sight, and when he's out of it, all memories of him will disappear. Number 19. While Juggernaut is not a mutant himself, he is actually the stepbrother to Charles Xavier. Number Number 20. Magneto is the first X-Men character to appear in an animated show, and that was in 1967's Fantastic Four cartoon, where he was defeated by a wooden gun. Number 21. When Charles Xavier first meets Storm, she is living in Africa and is staving off regional drought and therefore being hailed as a weather goddess there, but she was actually born in New York. Number 22. Dazzler was originally conceived as a cross-promotion character between Marvel and Casablanca Records. She was even going to receive a movie in the 80s, but then disco kind of died and the project eventually fell apart. Number 23. In a page by Dave Cockrum detailing how to draw Nightcrawler, he mentions not to connect his tail directly to his groin when drawing him from the front, as it would give the current editor at the time, John Romita, ulcers due to the provocative look it would elicit. Number 24. After saving a Pegasus in Asgard, Dani Moonstar becomes a Valkyrie, thus giving her the ability to see an aura around people who are going to die. Number 25. Bobby, also known as Iceman, was able to become a certified public accountant from his studies at UCLA, possibly making him the only Omega level mutant qualified to do your taxes. Number 26. Firestar, who's now a member of the current X-Men team, made her first appearance in an animated show, which was Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends in 1981. Number 27. Cyclops' optic blast originally came from absorbing sunlight, but was then retconned into being concussive energy that's expelled from another dimension. Number 28. When he was a member of the Avengers, Sam Guthrie, aka Cannonball, met and married Smasher, aka Izzy Kane, a human Shi'ar super guardian and member of the Imperial Guard. Number 29. After being rejected by her real father and church, Rain Sinclair was taken in by Moira McTaggart, who acted as a maternal figure to her, which is interesting considering Moira's current status quo in the comics as a villain. Number 30. In the original Mutant Massacre event, the Marauders hunted down and attempted to kill Madeline Pryor. In the recent Hellion series by Zeb Wells, the shoe was on the other foot as Madeline was found torturing the Marauders in an abandoned Sinister cloning lab. Number 31. Scott Summers' father is named Corsair, and he is actually the leader of a group called the Starjammers, who are essentially space pirates. Number 32. Emma Frost, the White Queen, couldn't always turn into Diamond. Originally, she was just a high-level telepath, but had a secondary mutation in Grant Morrison's new X-Men run that enabled her to turn her skin into Diamond. Number 33. Rachel Summers was originally supposed to have a Claremont-written limited series that would lead into her arrival in Excalibur: The Sword Is Drawn, but for whatever reason the project was dropped and we don't get much of an idea of where she was right before that, other than that Mojo was involved. Number 34. Kitty Pryde's pet alien dragon, Lockheed, is said to have 5 lungs. Number 35. Magneto originally had an Auschwitz tattoo that was too high and therefore historically inaccurate, and it was later retconned to be the number 24005. Number 36. Originally, Mystique and Destiny were meant to be Nightcrawler's biological parents due to shape-shifted procreation, but the Comic Code Authority prevented this at the time. Luckily, in contemporary books, these two are very free to be a couple. Number 37. When Claremont and Cockrum initially introduced the Phoenix, they wanted to showcase how powerful she was by fighting Thor, but this idea was shot down by a Marvel executive who didn't think a woman should be able to beat a character like Thor. Luckily, the two got around this problem by having her defeat Firelord, a character who had fought and had a draw with Thor previously. Number 38. To celebrate Marvel's 80th anniversary, certain characters were featured in a new Barbie line, and those characters were Mystique, Storm, and Dark Phoenix. Number 39. Quentin Quire is often featured wearing an array of shirts with an array of different catchphrases. X-Men comic book editor Jordan D. White has stated that he believes Kid Omega's shirts are blank and he telepathically makes everyone around him see whatever slogan he feels like projecting that day. Number 40. Storm's first name, Aurora, actually means beauty. Number 41. Psylocke was originally only supposed to stay in her Asian body throughout the Acts of Vengeance story arc, but because of the overwhelming response to Jim Lee's Psylocke design, they decided to stick with the body swap. Number Number 42. Claremont intended Kitty Pryde to eventually fall in love with Rachel Summers, but this was again shut down at the time because of the Comic Code Authority. Number 43. Where would Emma Frost be without her iconic sense of style? Well, her brother Christian Frost was the first person to ever tell her that white was her color, and that was when she wore a white dress to a high school dance. Number 44. In a not so great display of character, Emma once killed Butterrum, Firestar's horse, by telepathically stopping the animal's heart. Number 45. Polaris doesn't dye her hair green, it's actually a side effect of her mutation. Number 46. Alex Summers, aka Havoc, has said that his favorite movie is West Side Story. Number 47. Sunspot is Afro-Latino, but originally, according to a Bob McLeod design sheet, he was supposed to be African and Portuguese instead. Number 48. Laura Kinney, aka the current Wolverine, originally made her first appearance in the animated show X-Men Evolution. Number 49. Roy Thomas is responsible for Wolverine being Canadian, as at the time, he wanted to appeal to the copious amount of Canadian comic book readers. Number 50. Apparently, according to Captain America, Emma Frost reminds him of his mother for some reason. Thank you guys so much for checking out this video. It took a lot of hard work, so if you enjoyed it, please comment and subscribe, and let me know if you want to see another one of these in the future, whether it's for the X-Men or for another comic character or comic group. And with that, have a great rest of your day.